barrier in 10 metres of either line was the difference in this game in the end.
That's a great way to put it, actually,
because the tries that Wigan scored were close, let's say, those 2 second half tries in particular. But then again, Fatuli Talanoa's try was bloody close.
Yes.
In the first half too. I think, a couple of those could have gone up as no tries and not had proof to overturn them, although I think fair play that they all were given as tries, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, good to see Ben Taylor backing himself. I thought he had a good game as well. Considering he's coming for some stick in recent
I think he managed the players quite well. There was the only issue I had in this game, and it happened a little bit from both sides, is that the play of the ball, players were sort of not as bad as in the St Helens Castleford game, where every minute a penalty could have been blown for a ruck infringement, I felt, which I was trying to goad you towards talking about, but we've done that game.
Yes.
But both sets of players were kind of stepping off the mark a little bit too much for my liking in this game. That was starting to annoy me a little bit, I think. But Ben Taylor has a tendency to let those sorts of things go and just give a team 8 metres because of their own stepping forward sort of thing, and is grown into, basically is trying to get a grand final out of the way. He started refereeing the last few weeks, and I think he's refereeing at a grand final level in terms of letting some things go to make the game not slow down too much, but picking up the penalties that are deliberate attempts to slow down the game, but anything that's attempting to get a game for yourself is just letting slide a bit more, suffer from it on the end, that you don't actually get the quick play of the ball that you wanted from your behaviour. So I agree, I think he had quite a decent game. What was I going to say? The game, if you look at it sort of like as a graph maybe of like territory and possession and stuff, in the first half all the possession and territory would have been in favour of Hull FC, and as the game went on, that line just kept moving and kept moving and kept moving, and in the last 10 minutes it was all exactly the other way. And I think what had happened, to be honest, is Wigan's goal line defence in the first half had led Hull FC's players to lose a little bit of confidence in attack, and they started to then try and hang on to the win, knowing that Wigan's attack is diabolical. But what they didn't reckon for is Talima Tautai having the game of his Wigan career.
The game of his career in Great Britain, I would suggest. It was phenomenal.
And
where's that been all year?
Well, it's been coming. He has been far better this year than he was for Wigan last year. And let's not forget, he was quite a weapon for Wakefield the year before that. He was like, the power player of the year or some ranking or something that was given to him when he was at Wakefield, the amount of busts he was making per carry and that sort of stuff. He had that in him, but he'd gone away from that a little bit within the Sean Wayne game plan of, let's just go slow and let the defence set the positions and then we'll do the same move, that sort of stuff. But
he's definitely one of the most improved players in Super League this year.
But I think that was ultimately the difference, that Wigan had a couple of players who really pushed up that level in the second half, in terms of their intensity and their attitude, as they sensed that Hull FC had lost a bit of confidence, because players like Jamie Shaw and Mahe Fanua and people like that were outstanding in the first half. They were really threatening, but they just couldn't get the amount of tries because they were playing against a really good defence.
That's it. As good as Talima Tautai was, I am still yet to be impressed by Frank Paul the Wrecking Ball, though.
He was better this week, to be honest, compared to what we have seen from him.
Right. But, oh, God.
But yeah.
George Williams' try as well. I like that. That was that bit of individual, off-the-cuff offence that you've been lacking at times.
Yeah, and
it was great. It was a great run to see.
Hull have had that in spades, haven't they? With people like Tuma Varve who don't really play to a structure, and Jamie Shaw who'll pop up wherever he needs to, and then some of the offloading forwards that they've got. Wigan don't really play that loose, and then they don't lose the structure enough, maybe. But George Williams, he's got that level of talent, and he showed massive toe to get around a fast player like Jamie Shaw and just make it to the line and put it down. And I still haven't seen Gary Schofield come out and apologise for saying that George Williams wasn't fast enough, even though he's obviously is quick enough. But anyway,
you might be waiting a long time.
I think both teams had good. I think both teams had good performers. I think Jamie Shaw was brilliant. I think the Wigan players just grew in influence in the game as the Hull players seemed to lose confidence, and it was surprising to see that from essentially the Challenge Cup final winning side. But that's what a really strong defence can do to a really good side.
Let me give you my thoughts on Jamie Shaw for England, because it's a conversation that people are having more and more now. I alluded to this a week or two ago, or maybe last week, and I talked about big games and Jamie Shaw getting big game experience. As the Challenge Cup final and this game, where he was safe as houses and had a great game,
a potential,
and then the next couple of weeks,
Shield decider if Wigan can beat Warrington
precisely
next week.
The next 2 or 3 weeks shape for me the decision on Jamie Shaw as England fullback, because if he performs well, and it almost goes hand in hand with Hull FC's success, but if he performs well in these games where he has the opportunity to show that he can perform under pressure, that for me over the next month is going to be a really interesting thing to watch, because if he does that, he's the England fullback for me. If he cracks or whatever, then I don't think it's, his performance for the rest of the season will just be almost disregarded by Wayne, and I think Wayne Bennett will go for the safer option of figuring out which of Tompkins or Zach Hardacre performs best in training. But for my money, Jamie Shaw has got the opportunity now over the next 2-3 weeks to be the England fullback and to put himself in the position.
I can completely agree. The one asterisk I would put to that is, last year Zach Hardacre was talked about as being way better than Sam Tompkins because of his defence. Sam Tompkins' defence this year, you just look at things like the tackle on Gareth Ellis in the Cup semi-final, his contribution to the one on Frank Pritchard in this game, although John Bateman was the major part of that. There was a tackle on James Roby in one of the St Helens games, I remember. There's been so much strong defence from Sam Tompkins. Yeah, he's let the odd ball bounce still, but I don't see that Shaw doesn't make the odd ball let the odd ball bounce. So the caveat to it is if Sam Tompkins can actually show some attacking ability coming into the back end of the season, no matter how good Jamie Shaw's been all year, he's been better than Sam Tompkins as the season as a body on his whole. Sam Tompkins, we've known to be able to perform that level. Look at the last 4 nations. He was arguably England's best back in that tournament. Yeah,
so let's flip-flop then and say that Sam Tompkins, what he needs to do, whilst the defensive side of his game has undoubtedly improved, what I want to see more from him doing is getting to the line a bit more. He's protecting himself, and he's going to be effective if he gets to the line and starts putting people in, or if he takes the line on and steps a few guys.
I think he started to do this in this game. He made 100 metres. He made a few errors in the line, but he started to get more into the line. But anyway, we've
let him take that line on them with that right.
But to be honest, Jamie Shaw has been exceptional, and so he's deserved all this conversation we've just had about him for sure. And we're going to get a bit more when we do stats, I think.
Fabulous. So give us some stats then.
Well, the home side had slightly more ball and showed more incision in terms of 5-3 in the clean break count. That's not a surprise to everyone who's been following these two teams all year, I would think. Although they were less clinical at the line with a 2-3 try count against them. They also had 15-8 in attacking kicks, so it showed they had more territory in the overall game. Hull won the penalty count too, which helps with that. 7 penalties conceded by them to Wigan's 10, but lost the error count 13-11. The overall stat line probably suggests Wigan earned their win, making more tackles overall but missing fewer, and making 208 more metres at a big 1.4 metres per carry better average gain. Individually, George Williams with a try 140 metres, Anthony Gelling with 165 metres, 2 clean breaks, 3 successful offloads. John Bateman had 41 tackles without any missed tackles and 107 metres. And that was with him going off as well for a spell for a concussion assessment. Taulima Tautai with a try, 7 tackle busts, 5 successful offloads. He also had a clean game, which for Taulima Tautai is massive. No knock-ons, no missed tackles, no penalties conceded.
Yeah,
that is massive.
It really is.
For a player who's that error prone. I had a little look into this as a side note as well. Before this week, there were 549 of these clean games. From 5,225 individual game performances by players in 2016. That's 11% of all individual matches played so far in the top tier. People have had a clean game, which is about consistent to last year's actually.
Right.
Yeah. When I looked at that too.
Yeah, it's impressive that it's and good on Taulima Tautai.
Yeah.
I do like watching him, so it's good to see him,
in the best 11% of performances, I suppose.
There you go. Well, that's it.
On some metrics, anyway.
Well, there you go. What about the defeated home side then?
Well, we start where we often start. Yeah, mate. 61 tackles, 13 marker tackles for Danny Houghton. Seeker Manu with 123 metres. I thought he was decent again, and outside him, Fanu is a constant threat now at this stage of the season. It's hard to bottle up. He made Liam Farrell miss tackles, and you don't make Liam Farrell miss many tackles, as the stats we talk about most weeks will tell you. But Fanu with a try, 5 tackle busts, 3 successful offloads. And then Jamie Shaw, he has 7 tackle busts, 107 metres, 2 clean breaks.
You know he did. Right, fan reviews then. Paul, I'm going to assume it was Campbell. But there's no swearing, so how would you know? The best half from Wigan in a long time. Probably lucky to get the win, considering the previous performances. Tyler Casfan said, great character shown from Wigan. The key was keeping themselves in the game somehow in a tough first half and eventually winning the strength battle in the second. Big games from Gelling, Bateman and Sargentson laid the platform for the win and guarantees next week's episode of Super League Pod.
Was I threatening to quit?
Possibly so.
I think I wasn't I?
You say these things, but that's just the diva you are, though, isn't it? You say these things and you forget that you've made these.
Oh, it was more about my general feeling towards
you just won't
enthusiasm of rugby league, which, to be honest, and I was talking to my Uncle Liam on Saturday night at the family birthday party, and I was saying to him, like, it didn't feel the same as a win like this should feel. It still feels a little bit off because of just how disappointing the few weeks before had started to become as a Wigan fan watching the team perform. But and like you as well, there's a part of me that wants this whole team to keep doing well.
I really like him. Here's a blast from the past one I've not heard from for a while. Johnny, that _Rivet, alright young man. He said, get in, hopefully that's the turning point and we march to glory from here. Winky face emoticon. Cutthroat Jake said...
Yeah, it's hopeful, isn't it? Rather than... I went on to have a bit of a longer conversation with him on my personal Twitter, and it's like, it is the hope that's killing us this year. It's great to hear from Johnny. It's been a while, so good to have him on board.
There you go. Cutthroat Jake, is this the curse of the Challenge Cup striking again? Thought Hull threw it away. The more this losing streak, it's 2 games, it wasn't a streak before that night, the tougher they will find it to win. Rich Langley said, Wigan do a Hull to beat Hull, who pay the price for taking chances. Some 50-50 calls could be looked back at, but the league leaders' shield battle now swings towards Warrington. Hull have a court claim being blinded by some of the Wigan hair colours, though. # overdone the sun in.
Well, even more with George Williams losing his eyebrows.
What have they been playing at? What has he done wrong?
He was late for training.
He must have been,
He was late for training. I think it's absolutely pathetic after that performance last week that a player was late for training. He deserves to have his eyebrows taken off for that.
I did notice that he'd lost his eyebrows. Yeah. He did look a little bit like the lad who's the lead singer out of Years and Years for me, but only like one of them who's at the gym. I'll take a look. He bleaches his hair blonde and he's young, basically.
Right.
I'm being down with the kids, Mark. It's like a, pop culture reference. People like Tyler put down his classic literature and nod his head ever so slightly at his podcast device at that one. I am quite sure.
The plebeians in his class listen to that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. No, Years and Years drop bangers all over the place, mate. It's good stuff. Okay. We got about Paul Michael Craig. He got in touch. He said, with Houghton's emergence, England have more quality hookers than an Eddie Hayson brothel. Also, when did Tally Matautai become good at rugby league? Recently, and for 1 week, I suspect, Paul.
Is Eddie Hayson? That
I presume it's an Aussie joke. I'm assuming he's some kind of Aussie whoremonger, Mark, but I'm sure you'll tell us in a second. Scoots28 Mac, she said she's a Hull fan. We didn't capitalise on our possession. Wigan defended well, but we lacked that cutting edge finish. Have you got any immediate news on Eddie Hayson for us?
Looks to be a gambling man.
Right.
I don't know.
He's just some kind of seedy underworld entrepreneur.
He was kidnapped. Maybe it's not the same guy. I'm getting confused. Kieran Foran's been hanging around with him, so that's not great for him. Yeah,
it's just a bit of a naughty boy from down under, then, isn't he?
Hayson is reported to be a person of interest after the police looked into suspicions raised about the match fixing game that we looked at before.
Person of interest is always a term that I find quite amusing. It always Sounds like they're being paid a compliment rather than that they're under the suspicion of a crime. Like, you were a person of interest.
Oh, yeah, he's an Australian brothel owner, then this says, because...
there you go. Well, we've cracked it.
The story's linked to lots of rugby league players.
Is he really? Has he been known to acquire things from time to time?
It seems that way.
Well, there you go. We've cracked the case. On to the final game of the Super 8s then, and over at Bellevue, Catalan were able to extend Wakefield's losing run